Thank you, right.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
Two in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and
They be slow.
Wow. A second Super Saiyan? Second in order, perhaps, but by no means in stature. Your fight is with me now.
I'll have my revenge. And Deathstalker too.
Man, I can't fucking believe this. Another basement, another elevator. How can the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Oh, please, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
Ahoy, mateys. You have been shipwrecked into Inside the Sequel. You know what this podcast is. It's the podcast where we talk about sequel movies that don't get enough love or attention. I am your host, as always, Chris Hurtado, and I invite you on today's episode where we explore Pirates of the Caribbean 3 at World's End.
Did no one come to save me just because they missed me? I'm standing over there with him. From Walt Disney Pictures, every secret. What?
Who? Come again?
Will be revealed.
Ooh, I like that.
And the greatest adventure of them all will finally set sail.
Should he be doing that?
Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Rated PG-13. In theaters May 25th.
And this is a movie I'm excited to talk about, not only because I'm a fan of it, but because I have one new guest and one returning guest. I have, first off, Mark Wanner back from his Transformer episodes with us, and he's here again for Pirates. Mark, how are you?
What's up, Chris? Feeling
What's
pretty
up?
cool today.
That's good. Keep it cool, baby. And we have new guest. We have freaking Hayden Gilbert on for the first time ever. Hayden, how are you, my guy?
Oh, I'm living the dream, Chris. And I just want to say this movie starts with a child getting hanged, and you'd think it'd be rated ARG.
Well, I hope you guys have your rum. And I will say you guys can be my first mates on this episode because I'm very excited to talk about this one. This one had some controversy with figuring out who I wanted to have on here. And I was like, I know Mark Wanner likes this movie. And eventually he was like, got to get Hayden in. And I was like, I feel like everyone has told me to get Hayden on this podcast. And I just had it because I don't want the spotlight on anyone else but myself, of course. So
that makes me feel so special.
Yes.
I'm thrilled to be here. Although I do have to say, I originally pitched Chris on a different movie in this franchise.
Yeah, a movie that we have been on record as like saying is one of the greatest movies ever made.
It is one of the greatest movies ever.
And he gave us the one that came after it.
but
inside the sequel fashion,
especially after rewatching it, I've learned this is one I like better with each viewing. But
yeah, it's good. No, I really like this one. Even when we rewatched them a few years ago, and you and our other friend weren't super high on it, I was still like, no, that movie's better than people give it credit for.
But even when I was preparing for this, I watched both Dead Man's Chest and this one. And the whole time I was just watching Dead Man's Chest, I'm like, I got to talk about that. Oh, I got to talk about that. Oh, fuck. I'm not going to get to talk about any of this.
You know what's funny? It's because this is a podcast, believe it or not, where we talk about sequel movies don't get enough love or attention. And I was under the impression that everyone loves Dead Man's Chest. But again, that movie is one of the goated few movies, along with Spirit, the horse of the Cimarron,
Stallion of the Cimarron,
that Attack of the Clones, and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, where I constantly watch those movies on road trips in my grandmother's van that had like the little TV screen. It was those three in circulation. So I was under the impression everybody loves all those movies.
Yeah,
that's a great rotation.
I've been there before where it's like I see something at a young age and love it. I'm like, well, everybody else loves it. I mean, come on. Everybody loved Van Helsing. They did.
Yeah.
They just did.
And
then I grew up and then like, yeah. And then I logged onto the internet as like a teenager and everybody was shitting on it. And I was like, oh, well,
yeah,
never mind, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah. And Mark Wanner made me watch Dark of the Moon. And that's the third movie.
I don't feel like I've been properly thanked for that yet, by the way.
I was off for 6 months. I thought that was thank you enough.
Yeah, he couldn't top it.
I was like, well, we did have a couple directors and a published author after him, granted, but
I fade into the
I remember Mark was like,
didn't have them.
I remember when Mark was like, I can't believe we're recording before these two guests, and he's like, now I feel like everyone's gonna forget the episode, but I still talk about that Dark of the Moon episode.
I mean, honored. I mean, that movie's like a gift from God. Another great
like
part
moon.
3 in another maligned part 3.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, correct me if you guys think I'm wrong, but I like At World's End. I saw it in theaters. I enjoyed it. I understand its problems. I understand why people don't like it. But to me, it kind of is like excused by the fact that I watched it at a good age and like I defend it much like, and I think it's aged and it's a third installment. So I pitch these movies. And I think it's right up there in contention to have this sort of respect and reverence. I think At World's End, I think Revenge of the Sith, I think Shrek the Third, and then I need one more third installment in the 2000s.
We can do this.
There was one more movie I know.
Pre-tens, huh?
Oh, I was gonna say maybe Resident Evil Extinction as well. That one should get some more love. Yeah. Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. You know, obviously people love that.
That one's always been loved. That
right.
That
I'm saying like
never unloved.
That one kickstarted for me the third movie can be good and it'll get better with age, you know. And I mean, Spider-Man 3 you could throw up there too. X-Men Last Stand can be up there as well.
Actually, 2007, if you guys remember, was kind of the summer of threes. You had this, you had Bourne Ultimatum, Rush Hour 3, Shrek the Third.
Bourne Ultimatum. That is a movie, and that is a franchise I don't hear a lot of people talk about, but I grew up watching those. That's why I haven't seen a James Bond movie. I was watching the Bourne movies all the time.
All right.
I saw the Bourne Ultimatum in a sold-out show, and we were the last people to get tickets, so we were in the front row all the way to the right.
Oh.
And so I was literally looking at that shaky-ass action, just like looking up and to the left. And to this day, I can't watch any of the Bourne movies.
That's worse than being in the front row for a subtitled movie.
Do you guys like remember like life before you could like pre-order your tickets and pick your seats like on?
Well, I don't ever do that. I don't like paying the convenience fee. I'm an old man. I don't like.
Well, Hayden, on record, you go to the theater and raw dog your seat.
Yeah,
that's fucking
every
nuts.
now and then, like when I have time on like lunch break or something, I will run, and I know I want to see something later that week. I will go up there and buy it like I will buy it at the beginning of the week for the end of the week, but I go up there physically to buy it.
I get the convenience fee, but I can't believe you just raw dog and show up and pick up your seat there. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, I'm on the AMC app and I'm like a week in advance. I'm going to pick my seat here and here, and I'm happy with it.
Do you have A-list?
I am an A-lister. Thanks for asking.
All right. Well, you're rubbing it in his face because you don't have to pay the convenience fee for A-list.
I don't.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I hear subscribe and listeners to my OnlyFans so we can get Hayden on that A-listers program.
Yes, please. Pity me.
Like I assume there's an AMC near him. Like I already know.
I think there's one in Houston. I think there's one 2 hours away. I can drive 2 hours. Drive 2 hours for Firestarter.
There you go. Yeah, I like how off the mic we were talking about Peacock, and I'm now knowing after Halloween Kills, if a horror movie franchise is announced to be in theaters and on Peacock, just stay home and watch it on Peacock.
Those are only the John Carpenter scored movies.
That Firestarter, it did scare me because I mean my most anticipated movie of the year, other than Elvis at this point, is Salem's Lot, and I am so afraid of that opening weekend audience for Salem's Lot. I'm so scared. They're gonna ruin it, dude. They're gonna ruin it for me. They're gonna ruin it for me.
Well, hold on. Before we even get started, Hayden, you're first time guest. We haven't gotten a chance for the audience to like educate them on knowing whether or not you're a sequel fan. Like, this is your first time. You're breaking your cherry with us. We're happy. Let us know do you stand sequel movies? Do you like them?
I love sequels. Yeah, this is another thing about your podcast. I respect and I enjoy. Sequels get way too bad of a rap. I think I think nowadays just everybody kind of has a million champions just because of the internet and whatever. But like sequels do get too bad of a rap. I mean, the age old cliche of the sequel is never as good as the original. I mean, just look at horror franchises alone. Most of the time, that's wrong. I mean, with a lot of big ones, like I'm sorry, but a case could be made for almost every Friday the 13th that it's better than the original.
No.
I hope
No,
Mark
yeah.
Wheaton's listening to this episode right now.
But like, I mean, that's just one off the top of my head. I personally love sequels because you have all the the boring setup stuff out of the way. You can just jump in to a new adventure with characters you already care about. And and again, most of this love comes from being a horror fan. And I do feel like there is a built-in kind of excitement for horror sequels. And I can just bring that to sequels for other movies and stuff. So
yeah, I will say horror
grandfathered.
movies. This is like a sequel podcast, but it's always had a soft spot for the horror genre, as obviously being a big horror movie fan. And I agree. Part of the podcast idea was I like sequel installments more than maybe the contrarian in me is always like, I like the sequels more than the originals because everyone loves Halloween and everyone loves the first Nightmare on Elm Street. And that gets boring. And like, how do we differentiate ourselves as horror fans? But then when someone like Doug McCambridge goes on air and says, I freaking love Halloween or Howling 2. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but what? You know, it's like, I got to explore this idea. Like,
I mean,
and then with,
sorry.
No, I was gonna say, and then you get like Mark, who's like Transformers, the third movie. That's pretty cool, baby. And I'm like, is it? Let's watch this movie and figure it out.
With sequels, you can have a more personalized like ownership over sequels than you can originals because originals forever are for everyone and they're generally beloved because they are just incredibly well made, really good movies. But there is something that it's like I don't know what to talk about with them because everything's been said. It's all fairly obvious about why they're so good. You know, it's more fun to get into like these more unloved movies and, you know.
So is Halloween Kills one of those unloved movies, Mark, or no?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely it is. I can see you're smiling. You can wipe that smile off your face.
Let's wipe that smile off your face.
The listeners are like, no, keep that smile on. He's right.
Let's keep that smile on his face.
Oh man. Hey. I knew we were going to talk about Halloween Kills, and we're trying to like hold it with respect.
I assume that's why you brought us both on because you wanted at least one.
Here's the thing about Halloween Ends, real quick. Here's the thing about Halloween Ends. Okay, so the whole thing with Halloween Kills is like they cannot kill Michael with violence. He is overtly supernatural at this point. You cannot kill him with violence. They've got to go crazy metaphysical weird for the next one. Otherwise, it's just like I don't know what else
they need
planning.
to bring the 9 pieces of 8 and free Calypso.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
And bring it to the radio tower. Make sure that is broadcasting.
Don't go into the radio. Save that for another podcast. We don't have time to talk about the radio tower tonight.
Yeah, you're right.
I totally forgot. We got to keep the conversation on Pirates 3 like with respect because Disney might copyright this episode and take it down.
They're gonna make us walk the plank. Let's bring back the pirate puns. Okay,
so I know you guys love Dead Man's Chest, but like walk me through like just the Howl Pirates franchise for you all, because when I was like I knew when I was talking to Mark, I was like we're gonna talk about the Pirates movies because I've always thought the first 2 were good, but I didn't know where people thought about the third and on Stranger Tide. I've actually, full confession, never saw the 5th movie. But I always thought people didn't like the 4th one, which I saw in theaters. And that's kind of when I left the franchise. But up until the 3rd, I was like, this is like maybe one of the potential goated trilogy movies, I didn't know that.
I would agree with you there.
Then I found out people didn't like At World's End, but I thought At World's End is kind of like the big epic finale until At Stranger Tides was like the money grab. But then people were like, At World's End's the money grab movie. And I'm like, explain, because
to me, and I don't have a lot to say here, so I'll let Mark do a lot more explaining. But like to me, 2003 was such an interesting time because not only was I not on the internet, I feel it just like most people in general we weren't aware, we weren't paying attention to who was cast in the next movie. We weren't paying attention to the making of these things. And Pirates of the Caribbean kind of just came out of nowhere. No one was really expecting much out of it. And then everybody saw it and everyone collectively was like, wow, that was really fucking good. And I was right there with them. And then Dead Man's Chest came out and I was like, wow, that was even better. Everybody else liked that, right? And I remember the people I went with, my family, were like, yeah, that wasn't as good. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? Davy Jones, Flying Dutchman, the Kraken? What are you talking about? It's so much good. Dirty, Salty Sea Dog Norrington. This is great. And then everybody's like, no, it's not as good. It's not as good. And then just like that ambivalence by the time I saw the third one had just turned into outright hostility. I remember seeing At World's End in the theater and everyone was groaning, like openly, like groaning, like, oh God, this is so bad. Why did you guys pay to see it then? Like, what did you expect? Because I feel like the thing a lot of people don't like about it is that it's very much more of whatever worked in the first one, but it is just like pushed to the extreme. The humor is goofier. Jack Sparrow turned up to like 15. And I think a lot of people were just not really into that. But me personally, I was like, this is great. And we'll get into it. It's, a lot more interested in the backstabbing and the complicated, convoluted plotting. And it kind of holds off on that action till the very end. But dude, by the time the two ships were locked together in the whirlpool, I was like on cloud nine. I thought it was one of the most exciting climaxes I'd seen. And I think that's helped. And we will get into this as well. I think it's helped by, it's Gore Verbinski. It's not just some guy like making this. As CGI heavy as that climax feels, it's still like directed incredibly well. It's like a ballet. Oh, and I'm sorry to anyone who follows me on Letterboxd. I'm basically just going to reiterate my my reviews for this.
It's not directed by like a Rob Marshall or like a Joaquin Ronig or like any of these.
The fifth one is at least
we'll
a
get
movie and not like a made-for-TV movie. The fourth one is, well, the less said about the most expensive movie ever made, the better.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
Mark, do you remember like where you were when you watched At World's End?
100%. This movie came out, or I guess the Thursday night preview shows were the very last day of my junior year of high school. So I literally left my junior year of high school, went right over to the theater to catch the first show.
What a god.
My relationship's kind of interesting because I didn't see Curse of the Black Pearl until a couple months before Dead Man's Chest came out, because I didn't think it looked that good when it first came out. Were
you not a pirate fan as a kid? You didn't like pirates?
I was a pirate fan as a kid, but something about that movie just didn't speak to me. Like, this was the summer of Matrix Reloaded, Bad Boys 2, like big old action movies or sci-fi movies. That was way more what I was interested. I was not interested in period piece pirate adventure movies, regardless of, I don't know, the good word of mouth. I will admit, after more people started talking about how good it was, I was like, all right, I kind of want to watch it. But I never really felt that urge until right before Dead Man's Chest came out. I think a couple months before, I borrowed Curse of the Black Pearl from a friend. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. Loved it so much that I watched it twice in the same day. That is rare for me because usually I don't like to, I feel like I get burnt out on movies pretty quickly if I watch them that much. So I kind of like to let them breathe a little bit, but I went right back and watched that one again because I had so much fun with it. Actually,
it's weird.
I think part of it was that I was watching it with my mom and she fell asleep and she wanted to see what she missed out on. So I'm just like, I don't have any problem watching that again.
The first one
yes.
is pretty different for like a live action like Disney movie, you know, like it was like it had action, it had romance, really great production values, you know.
I think it just helped. I mean, again, Jack Sparrow was like the key to that movie because everything else works beautifully. But if he's not there to kind of like, I don't know, offset all that like serious melodrama, I think it might not work as well. It's such a brilliant touch to have this just kind of just straight-faced nincompoop at the center of the story. And he plays it so perfectly. I completely forgot that he was nominated for an Oscar for this role, and it's one of the best decisions the Academy ever made.
I know everybody's like tired of him, tired of the whole Jack Sparrow thing. We're just gonna go into Jack Sparrow, nothing else. But I know everybody's tired of like Jack Sparrow the character at this point. But like, I mean, it is crazy just how perfect he was in that first movie for that role. I mean, it was literally like watching someone. This is stupid and cliche and over dramatic, but like, or over serious, but like, I mean, literally like one of the many roles that dude was born to play.
Loved Curse of Black Pearl. Watch it twice in one day. Dead Man's Chest came out. Back then, it wasn't only until recently that I realized I liked Dead Man's Chest better, but I think because I was so surprised by Curse of the Black Pearl that I love Dead Man's Chest, but I didn't like it as much. I kept thinking like, man, we need Barbossa in this. I was ecstatic when we got to that ending and he walked up. He's like, so tell me, what's become of my ship?
One of the best endings in all.
Yep.
Lost my fucking mind.
Yeah.
And then, so I was excited. I was on board for At World's End. Went straight to the theater, waited in line, saw the very first show. And I did not pick up on that, maybe because it's the very first show, so it got all the super fans, but I didn't pick up on any of that groaning. Everyone I saw it with, my two friends and everyone in the theater, seemed to thoroughly enjoy it. And I was a little mixed on it. I didn't hate it, but I wouldn't say I was a fan. But I walked out still having had a good time. I remember being baffled at some of the decisions that we will talk about as we go through this episode. Couple hours go by, I get a call from one of my friends who went to a later show. He's like, I swear to God, you better not have liked that piece of shit. And I was like, whoa!
Is that a friend I like? Did y'all know each other that long ago?
And because I was less willing to be stand up for my opinions back then, I kind of just agreed with everyone like, oh yeah, that was shit. And I didn't come back to it until I did a little rewatch last year when I was bedridden with COVID. And it's a very good movie. I don't know what problems everyone had with it back then, but they're stupid, baby.
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest thing that hurts it is the runtime and maybe a few subplots. But other than that, it's a popcorn movie through and through for me. Like, I just think the visuals look so cool. And I love how we get, like, I agree with Mark. I love how Barbossa is like so big in this movie. Jeffrey Rush, who plays him, is super entertaining. Like, and also this movie realized we need to dial down the Jack Sparrow because we understand people are get tired of the shtick. So they don't introduce him until like 30 minutes into the movie, which is kind of interesting. But
when they introduce him, oh boy, they go overboard on that Jack Sparrow.
I feel like they put a gun to Johnny Depp's head and was like, do comedic stuff for like the first 10 minutes on screen. And that's what
I don't think so. I think they were just like, Johnny, just do whatever you want. And he's like, oh boy, I've been waiting.
Because that's weird. Because like there's a lot of parts where he does comedic bits and he kind of looks at the camera like, you know, like when he's talking to himself. But I will say, Mark, you're right. The first movie feels like a Jack Sparrow movie. In the second movie, it feels like a Will Turner movie. And in this movie, it feels like a Elizabeth Swann film.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's the Pirate King now.
Arg. Yeah. Like, I think she's the best thing in this movie. I wouldn't say Will Turner was the best thing in the second movie. I would say Davy Jones was. And like, you know, I think Jack Sparrow was good in it too. Maybe Bootstrap And Bootstrap Will Turner was awesome as well.
Hell yeah.
And the Kraken, like the Kraken was just on a
My
roll
God.
in the 2000s. You get that, you get Wrath of the Titans and stuff too. Like the Kraken had a lot of screen appearances in movies. That was cool.
That's one thing that I don't like about this is the fact that the Kraken has just been killed off by the time this.
Can we get to that? Because can I say something about that?
Yeah, wrongful death, not
Well,
like prelude to Harambe for sure.
Well, I want to say, because I used to think the same thing, and like, because I love the Kraken. The Kraken looks awesome. I love monsters. I love sea monsters, and seeing that thing, see the Kraken attack, and
I love
it's
that
just great.
fucking organ music that plays.
Right. However, after watching both of them basically back to back, I think we've seen about every bit of Kraken action we can possibly imagine in the sequel. We get like 3 attacks from him, 2 of them pretty big set pieces. And like, I mean, you basically see what all he can do. And one of the things I love about this movie in particularly, they set it up in the second movie, but I love that a subplot of this movie is the East India Trading Company trying to like, and basically essentially like holding mythological deities captive just for their own gain. That is so astonishing to me. I think that is such a cool subplot for this movie. I think it's such a like an amazingly evil and like devious motivation for these villains. And having the crack, it is a shame that the Kraken's like killed off screen or whatever, but it's like a gut punch in this movie. Cause I mean, it is horrifying. It is a sea monster. It did kill a lot of people, but like just seeing that it's just like thrown to the wayside, killed off screen so unceremoniously, it's kind of like, wow, this like majestic, mysterious beast has just been offed by these insane men who want to rule the world, rule and run the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love that about this movie.
Yeah, it's because an Aldrich sea monster, like it can be bad, but it'll never be as bad as fascist British business.
It will never be as bad as capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
I get internet points for that.
Yeah, like thank you, Disney.
I will say, that's what I didn't hear Gore Verbinski or Elliot and Rossio talk about it. I just assumed that's why they took the Kraken out of this one, because they did everything they could do with it. But imagine the Kraken in that final battle in the Maelstrom. Imagine the Kraken just coming out of that thing. Like that would be awesome.
I had not considered that. Why had I not considered that? That would be cool, but I don't know. I again, for the reasons I stated before, I love that it's like it is these horrible fascist capitalists going for those internet points, doing everything they can.
He's after the clout.
I mean, they're killing like magic. Like I don't know. I love that as a theme. I think that's.
Oh,
I do think that the East India Company is like feels more of a relevant evil in this movie, which I liked, because in the first 2 movies it felt like pirates are always getting away, but and then this movie it feels like they mean business this time around. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the East India Trading Company has basically taken over the government and is mandating the execution of children. Like that's about as dark as you can get. I do want to take one quick Gore Verbinski tangent right here, because he also did The Lone Ranger, which Hayden and I both love.
Yeah.
And that's another movie that like, where it's basically all about how capitalism is just ruining the world.
Interesting.
And it's using this like kind of these old fashioned genre trappings to tell that story. What's even more interesting about that is it's basically using like one of the most old-fashioned story ideas, which is the Western. And it's kind of using like playful old-fashioned Westerns that are all about how great America is.
I mean, like the American genre, the Western.
Yeah, and he's using these genre conventions to tell like a more revisionist Western story. And it's
more interesting.
Is just the best.
more interesting, he cast Army Hammer in it to literally eat the rich, so to speak. You know?
Yeah.
Now, okay, real quick
Hammer in
before we get off this kind of Gore Verbinski Disney thing, because I know a few years ago everybody loves to like point out the hypocrisy of Disney. Whenever Burton made the anti-Disney statement with Dumbo, everybody was like, oh, it means nothing because they're doing that to for like I don't even really know what the point is. They're just pointing out the hypocrisy. I love that Gore Verbinski and Burton are using Disney dollars to do this. I think it's funny.
Yeah, I do agree. It's kind of like pointing it out. He's just out there just putting his thing out. Because did he do a couple horror movies like up until this point? I could have swore he did. Gore
The
Verbinski.
Ring
He did,
and
The Ring.
Cure for Wellness are the two I think of.
So this movie, outside the first two, it does have some like moments of tenderness mixed in with like kind of like freak shock value. Like I swear the CGI in this movie looks realistic. Like whenever you see the pirates on Davy Jones or on the Flying Dutchman, like
They look so cool.
It looks
They
so
look
good.
cool.
They just kind of come out, and there's a lot more violence. Like in the beginning of this movie, the two Singapore women get shot in the head, basically, and you see like these guys at a bathhouse, who it's a bathhouse, but they look like the most gross, vile, unclean people I've ever seen.
Davy Jones sticks his tentacles down Mercer dude's like face holes, and I remember my mom literally going, no, this is disgusting. We should not
and let's not forget that Dead Man's Chest opens with people being fed to crows. They're just they're hung
and
in
you see an
cages
eyeball get poked out.
It is like he got a lot of cachet for the success of that first movie, that they let him do whatever
I think it also helps that it's pirates, and part of the thing everyone loves about pirates is that they're cartoony.
They have councils. I'm sorry.
That's part of the reason I love these pirates, but I love the pirate lore and the pirate king and the pirate rules and all that kind of stuff in this movie. I know a lot of people.
Yeah, I like how this movie's like the third movie, and it's like straight from the get-go, the movie's a build up to something big. And I like this. I like the journey to the build up. Like in the beginning when they're in Singapore, really great set designs right there. I think there's some dated stuff in it, but I think it's still very entertaining. I love how Barbossa is kind of doing the whole Jack Sparrow shtick in his own kind of way. I think that's kind of entertaining. And again, I think this is an Elizabeth Swann movie. She is just like badass through and through. She gets attacked by men, but she can kind of hold her own. She knows how to talk the talk and walk the walk in a way. You get the little gag with her with a bunch of guns, and all the guys are like, I don't trust you. And then she has so many freaking guns.
It's literally a pile on the table.
It is a little weird how Chow Yun Fat, Sao Fang, tries to sexually assault her as a way to release Calypso.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good.
There's some dated stuff.
Look, that's not good. This is and this kind of goes to what we're saying. It is a dark movie. Like surprisingly dark.
No, I mean, I agree that it's dark, but that's one of those moments where it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel natural to the darkness in the story. That just feels like I don't even know how to put it in the words. That moment just feels very random and out of the blue.
I don't want to be the person to defend that because, dear God,
we don't need to. We don't need to.
No. And I'm not even defending it. I'm not even
Lord,
defending
he's
it.
doing it.
No. I'm not defending it. I'm just gonna say, to play devil's advocate, I think he does believe.
That's a good movie.
He does believe she's like the sea goddess Calypso, and it's all about like. I don't know. Like, if you get into mythology, that shit's fucked up. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I will say the Calypso
was he
thing.
willing to go before he would have been like, oh, she's not Calypso?
Just look. All I'm saying is read any story about Zeus. Read any story about Zeus. It's never good. It's never good.
That's true. Good point. I will say though, this movie,
Probably could have left it out of a Disney movie, though.
This movie,
100%.
I will say the action though in this movie as well. We talk about the horror aspects and kind of like the darkness of this movie. The action in this movie is so great. Like the scenes where they're escaping the bathhouse. I'm trying to go in kind of a chronological order. They escape the bathhouse. There's action-packed scenes there. Some really good stuff. And then when they get Jack Sparrow, and then you get to the scene where the Flying Dutchman just randomly blows up a naval ship. You know, it's very like brutal. It's very like quick. And it's like, yeah, you know, the Flying Dutchman's back to its good ways. And then you see that, you know, Davy Jones is being held captive by Lord Beckett, who is a piece of scum of the earth, you know?
So Cutler Beckett, my friend and I, anytime we would talk about a villain or a cartoonishly villainous person, we would call them Cutler Butler because we thought the guy's name was Cutler Butler. So to this day, I always call him Cutler Butler. But to your point about the action, real quick, I don't think Gore Verbinski gets enough credit for being an amazing action director, because like Brad Bird gets a lot of props because he worked in animation a lot and he kind of brings that to live action. I don't think Gore Verbinski, outside of Rango, has ever really worked in animation, but like sort of like George Miller, who kind of did an animated movie and took that as well. Like, I just think he has such an interesting, unique vision when it comes to action. It's very vaudevillian. It's very like movement oriented, and you're always able to tell what's going on. I think he's sort of an underrated action director.
Yeah, he's not doing like a lot of like cuts to like action, but he's also not holding the camera in place. To me, it feels like he puts actors in like wide shots. It has them all doing things, and then pans over to an actor on a moving set piece and records that, and then animates.
Right, and just think about like how much goes into every action set piece in these movies, like and the camera
I don't want to
keeps
think
up
about that. That's exhausting.
Well, right, but what I'm
That's
saying
a lot
is
of
like,
money
compared to the other the biggest action movies right now, the superhero movies, where it's, you know, you're really just flying around with Tony Stark and Spider-Man and seeing him shoot lasers and stuff like that. Compare that to I know we're not talking about Dead Man's Chest, but like the wheel fight, where so many different things happen in the wheel fight, and you're also cross-cutting to Elizabeth Swann having to share two swords with Pintel and Raggedy, and like they're throwing everything back and forth to fight the sea monster pirates and everything, and it is so well done. You're just like, I'm like in awe watching that stuff, keeping up with everything.
Well, I think the thing about it is, and you guys might groan when I compare him to this, but like someone like you mentioned George Miller or Brad Bird, I'm gonna throw Michael Bay in there. Directors who have they are aware of everything that's going on the screen, and they're kind of responsible for crafting the set pieces. Like that's something I noticed because I also watched On Stranger Tides today, which is Rob Marshall. And you'd think Rob Marshall would be better at this because he's a musical director and choreography is a big part of his game.
Great musical director though. It's not Baz Luhrmann. That's all I'm saying.
I'm today years old when I realized Rob Marshall directed that movie. It explains a lot.
Chris, were you aware? It's the only thing I like to bring up with On Stranger Tides, other than the mermaids are hot. But Chris, are you aware that On Stranger Tides is the most expensive movie ever made?
No way.
Yeah.
Although
until
mess.
The new Avatar movies come out, maybe not. But
let's just say Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz and some of the actors got really big salaries for that movie.
I was gonna say, wasn't he like the most highest paid actor during this time on Stranger Tides and that later
Probably.
on? Yeah, it's like they didn't pay him a lot when the good ones were coming out, but they paid him a shit ton when the crappy ones were coming out.
Okay, the most expensive movie ever made. Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides officially holds the record with a budget of $378.5 million.
Jeez, it didn't even look that expensive.
Right.
No, it doesn't. It looks way cheaper than the 3 Verbinski movies. And that's another thing I was going to bring up because we're talking about how good the action is compared to nowadays. One of the things is he is aware of everything that's going on. He knows how it's going to cut together. He kind of helps plan it out. He's kind of creating these vaudevillian kind of fantastic set pieces in his mind. that's why the set pieces are far less impressive on Stranger Tides or Dead Men Tell No Tales. Another reason is there's a lot of location shooting on these movies, and that kind of helps the CG to blend in a little more seamless. I'm not going to do any Marvel shit talking. I've done enough of that in my life. But those movies are mostly green screen. They're mostly green screen and just kind of blurry people flying around this green screen environment. And I love Spider-Man No Way Home with all my heart, but that movie looked dated the first time I saw it. Those effects were never fully convincing. Watching these movies again, this stuff still looks 100%.
Davy Jones looks amazing.
It is very rare for me to see something in his movies and be like, okay, that's a little dated. Maybe some of the stuff in Curse of the Black Pearl, but not the second two. They look immaculate.
Yeah, no, I agree. He does. I think Gore Verbinski, which I was watching it and I was like, I said out loud, I was like, it's crazy. This movie came out in 2007. It looks so good still. This guy, he has an impeccable taste for mixing night and day scenes, because when it's at night, it's beautiful. It's long shots. You get that nice shot where the starry night and you see the Black Pearl riding through.
Oh God, that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, honestly.
And then you get an awesome kind of gothic look of when Elizabeth Swann is escaping the Flying Dutchman at night, and you get the nice lanterns mixed with the gross and griminess with the smoke and the fog. That's a great scene. He gets that. And then I swear every moment that it's bright and early, it feels like scenes in the movie, it looks like you're at the theme park and it's like the bucket just came down or the sprinklers being shot. It feels like you're in a water park, and it feels awesome. It looks awesome. It's weird in this movie more than any of the Pirates movies. I can kind of feel the weather in a way. I'm jealous that they're getting water sprayed on them when they're on the ship with the bright and glistening sun, on them. It just, I feel the locations in this movie. Same thing with when they're on the Maelstrom. It looks like they're literally gonna sink into it. It's I don't know what a Maelstrom would look like in real life, but this movie has always kind of given me that vibe of it looks like hell. You know what I mean?
It's terrifying. I've stated my love of disaster movies, and part of the reason I love them is because especially aquatic disasters, that's a really big fear of mine. And seeing just open ocean just turning into a whirlpool like that, it is terrifying, especially as convincing as it looks.
That's a good point. Real quick, that's a good point though, Mark, because when I feel the rain and I feel the water splashing, I feel the weather. I feel that kind of elements there. I get another movie real quick that I get that vibe from that does really well is Crawl. When it's raining, when it's tsunami weather like that, it's wow, I really feel that. And that's a really important element when you have weather being a huge factor in your movie.
Another thing I really like about that climax in the Maelstrom is when you look at it, and I remember the internet reaction to it. Everyone was like, oh, it's this CG bloat. It's nothing but digital imagery, and it's just a bunch of noise. And you compare that to nowadays, and it's insane because it is very CG heavy. It's you can't necessarily do this practically. It's a wild, crazy idea. But then I always remember, it's still just the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman, in the Maelstrom.
Yep.
Nowadays, I can't help but feel you would see the entire both armadas going against one another, and you would just lose so much in all of that. Every action scene in every action movie I can think of, big budget action movie, blockbuster I can think of recently, is just everything in the kitchen sink, which sounds exciting, but it's somehow less exciting when you're watching it.
Mark, what were you going to say before I cut you off rudely, like we do on this podcast often?
Well, first, relating to what he said, is that when I was watching that final battle, I had completely forgotten that it was just the Dutchman and the Pearl. I had forgotten that the entire armada was still back there. And so when they defeated the Dutchman, I was just like, wait, is that it? Is the entire armada gonna back down just because that ship's done? I'm like, oh no, they're still coming after them. There's more. But then they take them out surprisingly quickly. They just have to take out the Endeavor,
They
which
just
is
gotta blow up Cutler
that's-
Butler, dude.
that's an awesome ship, by the way. The Endeavor, Cutler Beckett's ship. Like, I mean, honestly, all of these ships are pretty awesome. Like, even on Stranger Tides, Blackbeard's ship is awesome. Like, there's such a
I was
grand
gonna ask.
design to these ships.
I was gonna ask what y'all's favorite ship is, but I feel like we're all gonna say Flying Dutchman. I'm definitely gonna say Flying.
Flying Dutchman's iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can get better than the Dutch.
I like tentacle squid shit. It's my preferred
Oh, yeah.
porn.
Hell yeah.
What I was originally going to say was that you were talking about how you feel the weather and the locations in this. One thing I like about this is the fact that the locations are so varied compared to the previous two. The previous two, it's pretty much just the Caribbean, and it's bright, sunny, like it's like just in the middle of summer, bright, sunny days or nights where it's still hot, but it's all very tropical. In here, you've got them going through
Sail to the
glaciers,
ends of
which
the earth.
it looks incredible. Like, I'm a big fan of anything snowy in movies, and that stuff is incredible. You've got them. It's a lot more overcast than this one. I feel like there's more rain. Like this, there's just a lot more variety. Like they get to when they actually get to Davy Jones' locker, like that feels different. It's just, I keep using that word, but there's a lot of variety in At World's End that I really appreciate.
Yeah,
You
they
got
mix
Singapore. Yeah.
Yep. They mix so much different, like kind of like, how do I describe it? Like you're in Singapore, like Hayden said, but like you get like more like Asian like influence and
Shipwreck
piracy.
Cove is cool.
You get, and I think
Oh my
that's really
God,
cool.
I love Shipwreck Cove.
It
Yeah,
looks
you
so
get so many
awesome.
different nationalities of pirates, and they're all together. And I think that's really cool to kind of see different like takes of like non Jack Sparrow looking pirates. I think that's really cool.
It is cool. Yeah.
I like how the
adventures of
Frenchman,
pirates.
since I went to France for 2 weeks, you know, I like,
Oh,
I know some
wow.
French now. I
Humble
know,
brag.
I know like that the French pirate, he's Captain Horse for no reason. He's like, I am the Captain Chavel. And I'm like, oh, horse captain. Cool.
See, we're lavishing
I think they call him
nonstop,
that. Ooh la la.
lavishing nonstop praise on this movie, and it's a great movie. It deserves it, but I'll go ahead and start being a little negative just to kind of balance
Bummer.
things out, because one of the things I don't like about this movie compared to the other two is the fact that it takes itself and the lore a little more seriously. Like now we've got pirate lords, we've got pirate meetups, like
I love all that stuff.
it's just like the whole fact is that they're all like they're kind of living this free life on the open ocean, but now they also have all these rules that they have to abide by. It's like they don't seem that much better than the East India
That's
Trading
why
Company.
I kind of find it interesting. I'm not saying that they necessarily thought it out this way, but it does kind of expose the bullshit of because the whole time you're thinking like, what are we supposed to be pro piracy here? They're like rapists and murderers, like they're terrible people. And it's that whole like Rob Zombie thing where like he equates freedom with being evil, and it's like the same thing. It's like no, what the fuck? But I mean, if you do look at it a little more cynically, and you're just like, oh, they're all about like not losing their liberty, but they're still bound to like this age-old code that's outdated, and they're all like, yeah, this is frankly bullshit, but we still do it. We're honorable.
Pirate's life for me.
Right. I kind of like that, but I understand how it's like, come on.
Gore Verbinski was the kind of guy who rooted for the bad guys in the movies, is what I feel like.
Well, the Gore Verbinski, he's got he kind of started out his history as a punk rock guitarist. Like he played in a lot of
I did not know that.
punk, which is funny when you see him because he's this quiet, older, like he's not fat, but he's a little heavyish gentleman, and he's so soft spoken, and
that's how my friends describe me.
He just seems like a big old like quiet nerd. And then you hear that he was a punk rock guitarist, and like the themes of these movies really kind of play into that, like that sensibility. You can sense, all right, these movies were made by a former punk rocker and a history professor and a mythology professor, the biggest fucking nerds and one secret badass.
Well, I'll also add, because I did take specific note of this, I actually do think they are a little aware of what they're doing, because they're like thing that they say from Pirates 1 is take what you can, give nothing back.
Mhm.
That's not so different than the East India Trading Company. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, but it's, you know, it's us against them is the sort of thing. So
Yeah, this movie's all about like the way of life ending, and you either adapt and survive or you keep living and you die. And that's what the East India Company's trying to show them. You've been doing this shit to us for so long. Now we're going to do it to you. And now you realize you're bullshit. And now you realize if you don't assimilate with society, you're fucking done. And that's what the whole idea of like the Kraken being easily killed, Davy Jones being held captive by his heart in the chest. And like, that's why, like we talked about, like, it's cool that the East India Company is the ultimate bad guys with like a fascist ideals, because it's like they're adapting to the world that's been like punishing them for 2 movies now. And I like that. I like how the whole idea is like, let's just run and keep doing what we're doing. And they're like, we can't do that anymore. Now they've exposed our bullshit. Now we have to either fight our old like ways and like figure it out after that, or like just fucking, you know, become normal people in jail for the rest of our lives.
hell yeah. Also, is there anything more stupid? Like Cutler Butler should have thought it through whenever he was like, we're gonna put your heart on your ship, Davy Jones. And
Yeah.
I kind of get that it's like, oh, he thinks he's in such control, he can like hold it right in front of his face. But at the same time, like, dude, terrible plan.
Yeah, he's definitely a Mickey Mouse villain for sure.
Get that wretched thing off my ship. God, he's so awesome.
I will say though, this movie I noticed in this latest viewing, it's kind of a precursor to like as a negative, which I really do, but this movie is such a precursor to like the modern MCU jokes of big movies,
Oh,
you know,
no.
like ships being blown up, people fighting, making jokes. Let's get married right now. Ha ha ha. And it's
No,
like
that's
making these like MCU comedy through and through. It's like a building's falling on someone. And
They're
then
not like
one of the
they're not
Avengers
like
go,
they're not like soy jokes though. They're actual jokes. They're not just like, well, that just happened, like in the middle of the fight.
my
you know?
favorite
Yeah,
idea is
yeah.
like a building crushing someone in New York, and then the person about to die just hears one of the Avengers goes, "What a Monday, am I right?"
Yeah, like, jokes have been a part of action and adventure movies for going way back. The MCU or Pirates didn't start that. The MCU just developed a particular type of humor that doesn't play for everyone.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's the fact that it's like the same humor through 20 however many movies. You know,
It's weird. I should have done more of my homework. I didn't watch any other swashbucklers like those Errol Flynn movies or like
Yeah, neither
the
did
Kevin
we.
Costner. I should have watched.
Speak
I
for
should have watched.
yourself. I watched every one of them.
I should have watched. What is it? Waterworld before this to compare it. To...
Oh,
Yeah, hey, maybe.
Oh,
That would be an
That's a
interesting
good
double
movie.
feature.
See, now Hayden knows that I don't do my homework before recordings.
Hey, neither do I. Again, Chris, we've got so much in common. I didn't even watch the movie. I've never seen At World's End. I just made all this shit up.
I
Okay.
will say, what did you guys think of Keith Richards' movie? I remember that being a big deal when this movie first came out. And in hindsight, I'm like, hasn't he always been a pirate though? He looks like one.
I think it's kind of cute that they brought him in, and I think it's actually kind of cool. Like, it goes from being like a cute little nod where they're like, oh yeah, he based it off Keith Richards, now they have him in here, to where it's actually kind of like, oh yeah, that's a good way of throwing him in here. That's a perfect little fit. He doesn't overstay his welcome.
They should have put Rob Zombie in the movie. He looked like a pirate too. And have Sherry
well,
Moon.
I mean, they're not done with this franchise.
Oh,
Remember in
villain.
Dead Men Tell No Tales when they brought in Paul McCartney to play like an uncle, and it's like, the fuck is he doing here?
no way. I actually hadn't seen that one.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
it's fucking
Javier
nonsense. It's
Javier
just
Bardem
like-
reprises his role from No Country for Old Men, right? In this one?
yeah, Captain Salazar.
I kind of like 5. I mean, it's better than 4.
I feel like 4's
I
the
haven't
worst.
I haven't
it's
seen
definitely-
5 since theaters. I remember feeling similarly about that in 4, but Hayden and everyone say that 5 is better, so I guess I need to give that a rewatch.
I mean, it's not great, but essentially when you watch it right after 4, you're like, wow, this is amazing. This is the
I
best.
had completely forgotten that Will was the captain of the Dutchman So I was just like, why is he just randomly showing up to talk to his son in the middle of the
My name is Will
Spoilers!
Turner. My father's
Yeah,
a pirate.
Can we
and I
talk
am
about
too.
can we talk about this lore for a second? Because this is a question.
I was gonna
They
say,
just-
can we talk about Orlando Bloom? But let's talk
Orlando-
about the lore. Let's talk
Let's
about the
talk about
lore first.
Orlando Bloom in relation to the lore. Do they just
Lorlando
not
Bloom.
see each other for 10 years at a time, or is she allowed to go out to sea and visit him? Because
I think that
I
she
was thinking
could go
that
out to
too.
see him, but it's less romantic if she does.
My question
it's
is,
not.
he has one
No,
day
no,
to
I
be
mean
on shore.
for the movie's purposes, it needs to be more tragic to be romantic.
Wait, so like if he can only be on shore for one day, what does he do on that day?
Oh, you know what he does.
oh, we don't have to. We don't have to.
I
get
mean, there's
crude
a
here.
reason they have a kid.
Oh, they have a kid. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, Disney's sexual innuendo.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, so you didn't stay for the post credits of At World's End either.
No. Oh, there's a post credit.
There
no
is.
Way. No
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, it says 10 years later, and you see Elizabeth and their son, and then you see the green flash in the boat coming up.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
He was
There's
pregnant
also,
for 10 years. Jeez.
I look.
No, I mean he's like a 10-year-old boy. He's like a 10-year-old boy.
Sorry,
I don't
for
understand how
the-
pregnancies work. I'm sorry.
That would be bad. He shows up and she's pregnant. And he's like, "Whoa, what's going on?"
I had for the longest time. There's a post-credit scene in Dead Man's Chest. Have you seen that one, Chris?
No, I didn't know post credit scenes existed till the MCU.
Look, I'm a dog lover, and the post-credit scene in Dead Man's Chest implies that the dog that they found on that island, they have replaced Jack with them, and the implication is that they are going to kill the dog to free
Until this movie
their god soul.
completely redeems itself.
Which I had never noticed. There's so much going on in this movie that I've missed the fact that that was the exact same dog, and I have never been so happy. I don't know
Makes
how the
absolutely
dog.
no sense why that's the same
It makes
dog, but
no sense whatsoever, but a lot of stuff in this movie doesn't make sense. Nothing that Ragetti and Pintel does makes any sense. But
now
everything-
before we start just shitting on the things that don't make sense, I do want to commend what are the screenwriters' names?
Ted Elliott and Terry Rossi.
I want to commend them because I watched the bonus features on the second one and this one for like half second. They were literally writing the movies as they were making them. And that is incredible that like this is such a high watermark for like winging it. And as a procrastinator, I respect the hell out of that. Like
They're just
I mean,
like big fans of Drew Goddard. They're like, edit the script, give it to the actors that morning.
they made it look effortless because I couldn't other than those little things where it's like just a reference for reference's sake, the dog comes back or whatever. Other than that little stuff, I'd be like, yeah, they definitely thought this shit out. Like it's so convoluted and complicated. They have to have.
Yeah, I heard that this movie was a production hell, and I wonder if that's why the movie's runtime is so long, that they just didn't know what to keep and stuff. So in the editing room, they just kept it and spliced
Just
it all.
keep
to make
writing
it
stuff
sense.
so we can keep shooting stuff so you can get back to the plot sort of thing.
Kinda, because this movie is pretty long. Like, I don't feel its length, thank God, but like when I think about it, I'm like, geez, this is a almost 3-hour Disney movie. Like, why is it that long?
I mean, 10 minutes shy of 3 hours. Yeah.
What could you cut out like in this movie though? Like, I mean, the odd like sexual harassment scene with, Keira Knightley, you could cut that out.
I feel like there's a lot. There's a lot of. I'd have
You
to
could
like
probably cut.
pay-
I mean, you'd cut Chow Yun Fat, but you could probably just cut to them at the ends of the earth and like about to like flip
Yeah.
the boat.
But a lot of these scenes are just like long shots that are tracking shots to the ships. Like a lot of it is just like scenery shots.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
they look amazing.
And like the scene with her father dying, I was like, oh, I forgot he was alive from the second movie, to be
Oh
honest.
my
Well,
god,
something
that is
that happens-
that's a heartbreaking scene. I actually really like that one.
Yeah, I do too. Like
I would
here's-
say
here's
his
the thing.
the character is like, I totally forgot about him. Like
Jonathan Price.
Mhm.
How could you forget about the villain of Tomorrow Never Dies? But
Elliot Carver, Rupert Murdoch.
but the thing about a lot of these things you could lose. I know it's a long movie. I know it could stand to be a lot shorter. However, like you could lose Norrington in this movie probably. Like, but I love Norrington. But the thing is, like, weirdly, this seems oxymoronic, but with long blockbusters, I've definitely seen some that feel so like choppy, get to the next thing, get to the next thing, get to the next thing. They like trim all that fat and it's still so long. I don't mind this thing being long and it feeling like there's still some room to breathe in it. And it's close.
I will say though, the pacing is good. Like, yeah, it's a longer movie, but like it's like a roller coaster with a lot of turns, you know, like the first part of the movie is that huge climb, but once you hit down, the rest of the movie is just side to side to side to side, small little jump up, back down. It feels like that in a way for me. And it's like, instead of seeing a bunch of like, you know, when you're up at the top, you see parking cars in a parking lot, you get to see really beautiful ocean landscape and swashbucklers, you know, like that's kind of cool.
Now, do you buckle swashes or swashbuckles? Like, what is a swashbuckling?
I don't know.
That's a genuine question.
None of us know.
Yeah.
None of us know where that term comes from.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just couldn't be a seaman. You know, I've already been it once. I can't do it again. So I don't
can't
know.
go back. Yeah.
Daniel, if you're listening, explain to us where the term swashbuckling comes from. You're the expert.
Do you buckle swashes or swashbuckles? That's all I want to know.
But yeah, I like this movie. Like, I like to pretend that On Stranger Tide doesn't exist, and I like the idea of the ending. I always thought the ending of this movie was great, where he's going to go find the Fountain of Youth. You know, I've always thought that is a fun ending for this movie. If they didn't make any more, totally fine with it. You know, because history explains what's going to happen to these pirates, right? I didn't need to know anything more after.
They're gonna hijack Captain Phillips's boat.
Oh boy.
So my question is it called Pirates of the Caribbean or Pirates of the Caribbean?
Well, I think it's pronounced Caribbean. It's just they have such exaggerated accents that they say Caribbean. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced.
It's crazy that there was that one scene at the end when Barbosa goes like, "We've got a new map here," and he opens it up and he goes, "Oh my God, this is exactly what Jack Sparrow wanted. His final masterpiece. He cut the middle of the map."
This is Jack's masterpiece. He like puts the hat on in slow motion.
You guys know who's an MVP or one of the MVPs of these movies?
Jeffrey
Gibbs.
Oh yeah, hell yeah,
Mr. Gibbs.
There are so many great smaller roles. Norrington, Gibbs, even who's Mr. Cotton?
Wait, Mr. Cotton?
The mute guy with the bird?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my.
What about Bootstrap Bill Turner though? Like, I like Bootstrap. I think he's kind of a meme.
Oh, dude, he's great. And he breaks my heart whenever like he's being taken over by the Dutchman and then he recognizes Will. That shit breaks my heart.
But hey, I think Gore got onto something really great in this movie, because like remember when Jack Sparrow is like a cage on the Flying Dutchman and he comes out as like a part of it and you see his brain and he's licking it and stuff. I'm like, that's some like peak like horror kind of shit right there.
However,
I really like it.
However, I hate when people write better movies in their head and they're like, oh, I'm better than the movie. I did that watching it though. When he's like, wait a second, and it's like the little joke at the end of the scene to like punctuate it. He says, he's like looking around and he goes, wait, I dropped my brain. Why didn't he say I've lost my mind? He should have said I've lost.
To me, that's the MCU joke right there. It's like, oh, I was at Multiverse of Madness and they made a joke just like that and everyone laughed and I was like, this isn't funny. Why are we encouraging this?
Tell Paul Feig I could get a job. I get a job.
That's one of those jokes where Elliot and Rossio didn't have time because they were coming up with everything on the fly. The fact that these guys are also they also have a hand in the National Treasure movies just shows that they're like big history nerds, and they I'm not surprised that they were able to come up with all this mythology on the fly.
Oh yeah.
I will say, I'm a sucker for like big epic battles, but like I love the speeches beforehand, like the speech that the leader will give to rile everyone up. Where does Elizabeth Swann's speech rank up with, for me, Aragorn's speech before the Black Gate and
can't beat
Hector and Achilles, Brad Pitt from Troy before they stormed the beach of Troy? To me, those three, I don't know which one's better because all three are pretty good.
Hector is the MVP of Troy. That
good
movie
man. That's the right answer.
That movie might not be as good as the other two you've mentioned, but I mean, that speech, I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember everything he did in that movie just being awesome. So that could be the best one.
No. Aragorn. It's Aragorn.
It's
not this day. This day we fight.
But you know the vibe, right? Like it's like right before battle, like the guy, somebody's gonna give like a speech. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing in movies.
I agree. Personally, my favorite line out of any of those is in a show that does not exist to Mark. We don't
need
season
to bring
9,
all our inside jokes in.
the season 2, episode 9 episode Blackwater from Game of Thrones.
That's a great episode.
There's I know you've definitely watched it. Tyrion gives a big speech before the fucking Baratheons break into King's Landing, and I don't really remember the rest of the speech, but he punctuates it at the very end by saying, "Those are brave men at our doors. Let's go kill them." That's the best way to end one of those speeches. And I kind of wanted Elizabeth Swann to do the same thing. Should have been like, "Those are brave men across the sea over there. Let's go fucking kill them." And everybody would be like, "Yeah, let's go kill them." It does kind of undercut it that she gives this amazing speech and then they're the only ones to sail forward. The rest of the armada is like, "Nah, we're going to hang back."
Yeah, I love how I was saying after watching it, everyone's cheering. I'm like, oh, they were cheering because they didn't have to go fight.
They raise the colors, but then they just like stand back. They're like, "Nah."
Yeah.
Oh, we should have designed our own flags. That would have been fun. Although there's a audio medium, so
just change your Twitter profile to the flag of your choice.
I'll make a Twitter and then do it and then make a flag.
One of my favorite little things about this movie is how much time Tia Dalma, aka Calypso, spends with Ragetti and Pintel.
Yeah,
like I don't know, just like they're always just like they're there making jokes about all the souls that are just floating in the ocean, or they're joking about
wanting to drop
things.
Cannonballs on the souls of the dead.
And she just walks up and contextualizes everything, and they're like, "Oh no." And it's like I don't know. I love that there's this little buddy dynamic when no one else on the ship is looking after Tia Dalma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does good in this movie, but like I feel like they did her kind of dirty in the script, because in the second movie, she's a great actress, a good character in Dead Man's Chest. But in the third movie, it's like, how do we make it obvious to everyone but the characters of the show in the movie that who Calypso is? And it's like they kind of run out of steam with her. In the beginning, she's pretty good in this one, but then eventually it's like this isn't even the same character anymore. Like
I would agree with you, and I do agree with that, but I love Davy Jones so much, and I love the romance, the idea that he was in love with like the goddess of the sea so much that I'm like, you know what? Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I do like that, like little romance, like when she touches his face and he's like not tentacles.
Turns into Bill Nye again. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's some good stuff right there.
See, that
also, he's in Underworld, which I was told about, and I need to rewatch the Underworld.
He's
movies.
Victor, man. He's Victor.
Those
I haven't
movies
seen
are
Underworld
pretty
in
fun.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, we need to finish our watch along of the Underworld movies.
Are they inside the sequel worthy?
Oh, you
Underworld
know what, Chris?
Evolution.
Chris, let's just talk
awesome.
about the whole franchise one day.
One day.
One day. Let's just do it. Like
I'll do one
because a few of them blend in together. So like definitely 4 and 5 are just kind of more the same in my memory. So we should just talk about all the sequels in one.
I'll have you on for that one, and then Mark and I can butt heads while we talk about the Resident Evil franchise. Savvy?
Oh, I'm down for that
savvy.
because I like the Underworlds more than the Resident Evils.
Oh, I love those Resident Evil movies, except the last two.
See, I like the last one, the Raccoon City one.
Oh, that one.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
like that
god,
one.
that movie was like a slap in my face. It's the first movie in theaters I've ever seen where it's like 15 minutes in, I'm like, oh my god, I'm done with this already. Wow.
That's
Oh,
the
come
first
on, man!
movie-
It picks up when that big old fat guy on fire walks into that song. Hit the song.
That
guys are making me
movie
cry.
is
A
fun.
little crush.
Hey, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Let's
movie.
let's talk about Calypso a little more, because once she returns to her god form and creates the maelstrom, we never see her again. I wouldn't have minded like one more moment between her and Jones if she could like
Yeah.
materialize in her human form, appear to him, because I mean she's a god, she can probably do anything.
Mhm.
Like just one more moment
Or
between
if you
them,
just see her face reflected in the sea or the clouds or something,
or she like after he falls off the
like Anna Valerius at the end of Van Helsing.
I need to rewatch that so I can get these references.
They need to make a sequel so I can come and talk about it.
It's weird
on
that she's
this
made
episode.
out of crabs.
She is like a crabby lady.
So
I mean, that,
He's
that,
done.
like, attitude.
He's done.
He's
done.
I mean attitude, not anything venereal.
did she have anything to do with the crabs rescuing the pearl in Davy Jones' locker?
Has
Do you
to.
think?
It's the same crabs? It has to be.
I think because she knew how to get there.
Now here's a question: how did she resurrect Barbossa? I know why she resurrected Barbossa, because she needed him to free her from her human bondage. But how did she do it? Did she sail to the ends of the earth and flip a boat and get him out and everything? No,
Was
because
he
he
in
wasn't
Davy
swallowed
Jones?
by
He
the
wa-
Kraken.
Yeah, so she probably just had someone bring his body to her, and she's like, "Thanks."
I think they
That's
gave
all I've got. I
Jeffrey
don't-
Rush a big check, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
So yeah, I'll walk down a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Again, one of the greatest endings ever. So
But no, I agree. I totally think there should have been closure though with Calypso and Davy Jones, because Davy Jones does die unceremoniously and falls into the maelstrom, and that's it.
they're not done making these movies. Bring them back.
Like
baby.
one little moment when he's like in the water, like one little moment between them, I think would have been beautiful. Because at a certain point, like after the maelstrom's created, you just forget about her, and she's such an important part of the movie.
I love a
She's
good
literally a plot line.
Yeah. That's a shame, but I love a good falling death for a villain. So the last time we see Davy Jones falling directly into the middle of that giant whirlpool, that's kind of cool.
Oh, it's
mean,
very
yeah.
cool. But I love a good follow up to a falling shot.
That's true. Maybe they should have had two post credit scenes.
Yeah. I think this movie has a lot of great things, but then I think they don't keep going with it. They kind of just stop it for the sake of pushing the plot to other things. Like, what's his name? The pirate king that dies and gives it to Elizabeth Swann. What's his name?
Xiao Feng.
Sao Feng.
Xiao Feng. We don't know much about him, but then we unceremoniously kill him to advance the plot a little bit more. You know, it's like, well, like what's his
he
intention?
does try and assault Elizabeth Swann.
What I mean, like before that, like why does he hate Jack Sparrow again, and why is he, doing all these other things? It's like I don't know much else about this character other than his crew basically serves as Keira Knightley's the entire time. And then when they ask who their allegiance is, the highest bidder is Keira Knightley. That the whole movie, you know what I mean?
Hey, why did the Black Pearl get 2 pieces of 8 bearers on it? Barbossa and Jack Sparrow were both bearers of pieces of 8.
That is actually a good question.
You know why? Because this movie was written in like 4 days.
Oh God, one of my favorite lines in this though is when Gibbs is it Gibbs or Sparrow who's explaining to Ragetti and Pintel the plan to bind Calypso and what the pieces of 8 are, and it's
Gibbs.
It's Gibbs, and he's like, the original plan was to bind Calypso to 9 pieces of 8, but the original lords were flat broke, and Pintel's like, so change the name.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we can't call it 8 pieces of whatever we have in our pocket.
Yeah, I like when they're fighting, and then Jack Sparrow goes like, "Whoa, that's politics. That's politics for you." I'm like, "Aha! They're making
That's
fun
a
of politics.
great line.
That's
Great
so
line. Honestly,
for the
I kind of,
chads.
Shouldn't
wish
exist in the pirate world, but whatever.
it's the same thing as like whenever I see British Parliament going at it, I'm kind of like, I wish we did that over here and aired it for everybody to watch. So everybody goes,
I like how
yelling at one another and fighting on tables and everything. That'd be awesome.
I love when they pull the codex out and Jack Sparrow's reading it, and he goes like, "Oh, of course," or a parlay. How fitting is that one? It's like this guy knows everything about a parlay, so how fitting it's turned against him. Yeah, I think this movie has some wittiness. There's some smart jokes here. There's a lot of jabs, and I kind of like that because Dead Man Chest I think it's just a pure entertainment film. It's got a lot of good elements, but this movie is just fun. You know what I mean?
I feel like Dead Man's Chest. I mean, obviously, I like it more, but I feel like that movie is kind of hilarious. That's one of the reasons I like it more because it is
Mark
so
thinks
much
this
funnier.
One's too dark, too serious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even mind that it's so much as it takes its lore way too seriously, and I like that Dead Man's Chest and Black Pearl both like they take their lore seriously. They have this deep lore, but they just have fun with it. And that's what this movie is doing too, to a certain extent. But sometimes I feel like it is a little in love with its own epic nature, and that gets a little annoying. But Dead Man's Chest, oh my god, that movie has so many just pure funny moments, like the fight in Tortuga or the battle on the wheel where like they're Norrington and Will are fighting while Jack's just kind of stuck in it, running on the inside. Like there's
Dirty Dog Norrington, one of the best characters out of the whole franchise. I love seeing him come back in this. I love that he gets a satisfying end to his arc, but I loved him whenever he had lost everything in the second movie. Great character.
Yeah, I think it's weird. I don't watch the first one that much, but I always watch the second and third one.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Like, I think it's because like I like Barbosa as like a good guy, more or less, as the antagonist.
Jones?
You know,
Davy
see,
Jones?
I love him as both. I mean, even though he's a good guy in this, he's still pretty antagonistic for a good deal of it. Like he's just always dueling with Jack. Like they're always at each other.
He should have been nominated for supporting actor as well as Johnny for Jack Sparrow. He did. I mean, Barbosa is just one of the great characters.
Yeah, and I just kind of like him in that kind of role of being like comedic, but also like on the quote unquote good guy side, and not being the big bad, because Davy Jones feels good like a big bad. You know what I mean?
And Davy Jones gets one of the coolest arcs. Like he goes from being like this badass, heartbroken, romantic, cynic, like mythological evil guy to being like just castrated and like being used as a pawn. And then when he gets his mojo back at the end of this movie, oh baby, I'm like cheering. I'm like, yes, Davy, get him, boy.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Pirates will be pirates.
There's a joke I want to ask you guys about. How do you feel about when he has this big confrontation with Calypso, and he's I reached my 10 years. I went onto land, and you weren't there. And she's like, it's just my nature. That feels like a Marvel joke.
Yeah.
Oh, because she's like nature. I didn't even think about it that way. I just took it as like, wow, like he simps, but like he is definitely not like he is definitely very self-conscious about it, because bitch is running around doing whatever she wants, and that's why he loves her. But like I mean, kind of ruthless, dude. Honestly, she's like, would you love me if I would have waited for you and I actually would have like been there? And he's like, no. Like, I mean, they are toxic. One of the most iconic toxic relationships of our time. Honestly,
I stand that stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Amen.
They're like, well, no, they're not like Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly.
Okay. Besides that, do you guys have anything else you want to say about Pirates of the Caribbean?
We've got to talk about Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom, because I feel like they get short shrift. I feel like a lot of people just write them off as boring protags in a world full of more colorful characters. But I think they're pretty much the perfect like versions of the boring protags in movies like this.
Yeah, I like Keira Knightley more, but Will Turner I've just never
absolutely.
veg with. And I think that's maybe partly why I don't like the first movie, is because it's a Will Turner kind of movie. Well, he's like the yin and yang to Jack Sparrow. But then even in Dead Man's Chest, he gets way too much screen time because of his dad. And it's like, I get that, but at the same time,
I like Will Turner though.
I love my dad, but like, am I gonna like sacrifice 10 years of my life with the love of my life for one day? You know, like what's the
To hang out with your
ratio there?
dad.
Yeah, it's like ratio plus L. Like Will.
You know
Turner.
what though?
Like, I'm
It's
doing
not
that.
just. You know what though? It's not just like just hanging out with your dad, dude. You're on a boat. That is awesome. I would do it. I like being on boats. Being on boats is. Dude.
I guess.
I mean,
at
as
the
long
end,
as you got people to go ashore and get you whatever you need. I mean, it does kind of seem like the
And
life.
again, she can come on the ship.
Yeah, she can.
is she
Will
the
she?
first woman to step on that ship? Because it sure felt like it.
Well, that's the thing is like the end of this movie, she will eventually come on the ship. But the thing in this movie is like at the end, dude, it's just dudes being bros. Like at the end of the movie, they're like, yeah, we might come back for you. We are going to sail the seven seas. You know, we're gonna be bonding on this boat. It's
Nothing
gonna
but
be-
vibes.
Yeah, you don't even want.
Dun. That's something we haven't talked about. We can finish talking about Will and Elizabeth.
I think
we
we're
gotta
done talking
talk
about.
about.
I think we're done talking about. We like
I
them.
agree with
We
you.
like
I
them.
love them. I always tend to sympathize with the kind of more boring male protagonist that has to go up against the rogue, because I don't know. I always feel like that character, the one who just doesn't stand a chance against someone like that. Although I guess Will stands more of a chance than Jack, so that might not be a good example. But like, I think back to Hayden's favorite movie, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
I find myself way more sympathetic to the piss poor Keanu Reeves character, just because he doesn't stand a chance compared to Dracula.
Carfax
And
Abbey.
I feel like I wouldn't stand a chance
Dude,
either.
Chris, you kind of look like Jonathan. You kind of look like Keanu Jonathan Harker right now.
I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, that's so nice of you to say.
Traveling to Budapest this
Perfect.
morning.
Okay. I know that I feel like we are running low on time, but we got to talk
I
about
know
the
where
music.
the bastard sleeps.
The music in these movies by Klaus Badelt in the original and Hans Zimmer in the second and third is some of the best. Like, right
Hans
now,
Zimmer.
I've got the movie playing in the background, and we've got them walking to their
Oh, this
beach
is a great
meetup
shot,
before the
by the
final
way.
battle. And Zimmer's bringing out the electric guitar for this moment. Oh my god, it's just
This little eyebrow Davy Jones gives. This is
So good. So good.
perfect.
So wait, who did the score for this third one?
This is Hans Zimmer. He did
Hans-
the second and third. It was Klaus Badelt, who's one of his proteges, did the score for the first one, and he kind of came up with all the iconic themes, like
I was gonna say.
dun, 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 dun,
Mhm.
or he's a pirate. But Hans Zimmer kind of expanded on that and created all these unique themes for the second
Davy
and third.
Jones,
It's
the
not
organ.
it's the previous movie, but yet the Kraken. Oh god, there's like some of the music that the Kraken gets. Like there's this little organ cue that plays as it's destroying the first ship we really see it destroy. It's just, I get goosebumps. Like these movies still give me goosebumps, and that's part of why I love them so much.
How awesome is it that so much real estate in the Flying Dutchman is devoted to one organ? So cool. So cool.
It's weird that movies kind of regressed from these pirate movies in sort of like scale and like design and like practicality, you know? It's weird going want to watch this, like, man, this stuff looks great. And like now it's like I see any like Marvel MCU TV show and it's like that doesn't look good. Like the VFX team took a day off. You know what I mean?
And none of the environments ever, there's just not as much thought or care put into all the design, you know?
True, but then again, we're
Even-
talking a show versus a movie. But at the same time,
I'm
it's still-
including the movies.
Even
like,
the Marvel movies, they don't
Yeah.
like even something like Guardians of the Galaxy, which those are probably the most extravagant Marvel movies in terms of design. Maybe those and Thor Ragnarok. Those don't reach the levels that you get in these movies.
Yeah, that's a good point. It just feels like this felt like the last hurrah for me for like Disney's live action like movies in terms of like not being a superhero or Star Wars, you know?
yeah.
And it's kind of sad
I
because
will-
like they ended up making 2 more and I saw one of the 2 and I thought it was god awful. And the next one felt like it was a last grasp for the franchise.
I will say Disney, at least with their live action adaptations of their animated films, the ones I've seen, those are the ones where they are still going all out on the production design. Like
Mhm.
would agree with that.
The Maleficent movies in particular, especially the second one, that has some rich production design to it. And I kind of wish they'd bring some of that over to the MCU.
That'd be nice. Although I hear those Maleficent movies are, you know, you're either a
Don't
fan or you're
say
not.
anything about the Maleficent movies. in
Don't
my
talk
presence.
about Mistress of the Dark that way, Chris.
Goodness. Okay. I'll have to do my homework and rewatch the first one to get to the second one.
Oh, that's kind of a beautiful movie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, you guys have anything else you want to say about the Pirates movies? I'm surprised we didn't mention the Pirate Triple X parody films that got a sequel as well.
Oh, so I worked at Blockbuster ages ago, and those were because we didn't have porn at Blockbuster.
Oh, I know.
Closest we had, the closest we had were those edited Cinemax movies like the Pirates and Pirates 2 Stagnetti's Revenge. I forget which one it is.
Skinemax edited ones. That's a perfect way to put those.
Dude, we should do Stagnetti's Revenge one day, like as an April Fool or something.
Is it just for lulz, to get the
it's
viewers
the
back
sequel.
in?
It's the sequel.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we got to talk about at least Pirates early on because 1, it's a blockbuster, and 2, it's a summary type of movie, and June is just perfect for that kind of shit for both of those things. And we got to cover it. I got to give you guys credit. Thanks for coming on for talking about it.
Talking about like the great shots in this movie, one of the great shots in, I don't know, maybe cinema are the ships, the Armada approaching through the fog for the final battle. Like you barely see the one ship showing up through it and you think, okay. And then you slowly start to see just how many there are. And it's just like, again, it's a director who understands this is going to be so pretentious, but whatever, the majesty of cinema and how it's a visual art form. That's one thing I wanted to mention. And number 2, I talked about the little buddy dynamic between Pintel Ragetti and Tia Dalma. I love that Ragetti is the one who frees Calypso. He's the one that tells her that phrase in the most loving way, which makes me wonder, does my boy, who, by the way, for the longest time, that was the celebrity I was told I looked the most like, and it was very distressing.
You don't look anything like him.
Well, here's the thing, because he is Gareth on the BBC Office.
Yeah.
He's the British version of Dwight, and I let a handful of friends borrow that. And because of that, I was always told, oh my God, you look like him, Mark. And it was a fucking nightmare.
Mark, don't
But
worry.
he
You
looks-
don't look anything like him.
In that show especially, because in this he's a little dirtier and he's got the glass eye. In that show, I do kind of feel like he looks like me. And maybe they just drilled it in my head, but I hate it. Anyway, nowadays people tell me I look like Owen Wilson, Woody Harrelson. I like those a lot more. But I love that he's the one to free Calypso. And it's makes me wonder if he genuinely is in love with her, because he doesn't have a shot with her, which is kind of its own little heartbreaking thing.
He was the real charmer on the Black Pearl. Little do people know.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
No, well said. I appreciate it. It's a little detail like that is why I want Mark Wanner on my podcast.
I like little details.
Little details and little less Michael Bay. I'm always happy with that.
Michael Bay is the movie that's chock full of little details. Movie filmography.
Hence the heavy drinking on recordings. But no, Mark, I want to thank you for being on here again, and giving me the chance to talk about another franchise that we both like, and have some fun with it, and hopefully have you back on again before another 6 months we take a break, if that sounds okay.
I give you a hard time, but I am thrilled anytime I get to come on here. Anytime you need me.
Yes, that's what
you better not be teasing about those Resident Evils. We got to talk about at least one of those.
Don't worry, we will. Because when you messaged me, we talked about that. I was like, oh, buddy, we got to have this. We have to have this like fight on air, So, but Hayden, thank you for being able to stomach being on a 3-way call for your first ever Inside the Sequel appearance.
Absolutely. Look, I love joining my buddy Mark on these podcasts. I always think it's fun.
This is actually the second Jerry Bruckheimer produced, Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio written sort of movie that Hayden and I have podcasted about this year.
That's true. I keep forgetting that
we did a National Treasure 2 double with Lindsay. And both of those movies share those things, and they were both released in 2007. I just think that it's a bizarre coincidence that only I would notice, but I think it's funny, cool, baby.
It's funny we're talking about National Treasure 2 because that was the last recorded episode I did last year.
So. That's right.
Yeah. That's the one that did me in.
So you jumped straight from a 2007 Jerry Bruckheimer to another 2007 Jerry Bruckheimer.
There you go. It's kind of funny how that shit kind of works on this podcast. Yeah, I knew I had to have both of you on when I last heard you guys were on the Film Feast with Matt Bledsoe.
Mm.
I was like, oh, I got to get in on that. That would be fun.
that action. Oh yeah.
And you've kept us at a short recording. You always manage to do that because we run up those run times when we're on Schlock and our Film Feast.
I feel bad for Matt. We run all over him.
You know how to keep it brief. You are into the whole brevity thing.
I'm into the whole, you know me. Like I like to get in, I like to get out.
This man lives a life. He's got shit to do.
That's right. We don't have anything to do.
Hell no.
Hey, like I said though, you guys are welcome anytime. I'm happy we got to talk about this, and it's a movie like we all agreed upon, and we have some like similar thoughts, which is really nice and refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
So
hell yeah,
we'll have to come back and talk about Halloween Kills at some point.
Hopefully it's not that long until we have all three of us back on. But whenever that movie releases, for sure, we'll have to have people talk, people encourage us to have that kind of conversation. Although Halloween Kills, much like well, no, I was gonna say Multiverse of Madness was kind of similar. Where it's like I liked it, and then I thought about it, I was like, oh no, I don't think I like the movie.
I didn't have to wait that long to come to that realization.
That seems to be the story with a lot of people.
No, it's all
good. Do love the ice cream song. Ice cream song.
I need a Malignant 2 to come out so I can actually have it on this podcast.
Oh, put that in the air, please. I would kill for Malignant 2.
Malignant 2 would be like the cinematic achievement of the decade.
Oh,
well, he's got to get out of the brain prison.
The brain prison.
Yeah, you remember she locks him up in the brain prison at the end.
Uh-huh.
And there's a little flicker showing that he's not fully gone.
Yeah. She says, next time, I'll be ready for you next time. And she slams the thing. And I'm like, you go, girl. Woo!
Dun, 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 dun,
Oh, Malignant. It just got a 4K release, actually, too. I don't know if you saw that, Mark.
Fuck, I need to go buy that.
Somebody actually tweeted, like, finally got that 4K release for Malignant. I was like, just now? People wanted that?
We gotta see it in a... Yeah, I'm not sold on 4K, so...
There you go. It's a government conspiracy to make people spend more money.
Yeah.
That's what
This guy and I both bought our new 4K TVs around the same time.
Yeah, real quick. That's why I hate 4Ks, because I don't think there's that much of an improvement. I mean, I think it's a Scream Factory publicity stunt to sell movies that weren't selling well. So they
That's the thing. Oh, you think it's Scream Factory? Oh, do not get me started on Scream Factory. But that's the thing is, like, we tested it out when last time, like, Mark, we hung out in person. We tested out a 4K Blu-ray, and the Warner Brothers logo at the very beginning looked fucking immaculate. It looked better than anything I've ever seen. And then it goes to the disc menu and the actual movie. I'm like, this doesn't look any fucking different. What on earth?
Look, not every movie, but I have a handful of movies that really pop in 4K. Look, say what you want about Scream Factory, that 4K transfer of Krampus, chef's kiss.
Hey Chris, you heard
Immaculate.
him. He said, "Let's say anything we want about Scream Factory." You know
Yeah.
what? My favorite recent thing is that they did. They announced that incredibly shitty art for Cursed, and then just like didn't put it on the disc. That art looked so bad because their art always looks terrible. And then I like sent a screenshot. I was like, "There's no way!" And then of course, if you order it from them, the special collector's edition or whatever with like with an interview with like the caterer or whatever, it's gonna be the only special feature on there. Of course they're gonna send you their shitty art in a poster tube that you can't do anything with and don't want to put on your wall. And like I think they just scrapped the poster and everything.
They did. There's no.
is-
It's like, is this the first movie with no alternative art? That's part of the collector's edition. I'm like, good riddance.
Also,
Also,
they do have alternative art. They have the theatrical on one side and the unrated on the other. And you can
True.
differentiate them by the color of the cover and the fact that it has unrated written on it.
Like in
That's
that
a genius
stamp, in
move.
that stamp font. Yeah.
I will say I did hang their Strangers artwork on my wall for a couple
Well, you
years.
love the Stranger.
That's creepy.
I do. But the fact that also they did pretty decent artwork for that. I mean,
I would never hang up that. So I love Silver Bullet as much as you love Strangers. I would never hang that up.
well,
on
because
the
the Silver Bullet artwork is dog shit.
I think Scream Factory, Katie, and the fact that Scream Factory can't get their cover arts, let alone getting bonus features on their collector's edition. Like they just recently put out the Ghost in the Darkness with Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas. And
I
it has
forgot about that.
and it has no special features.
Is it a collector's edition? I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think it's a collector's edition, but it's a Scream Factory release that they had a big announcement for because it's never had a Blu-ray release. And I
Yeah.
remember earlier this year, I was like, it's going to get a Kino release. It has to. And it would have might as well been because there's no fucking special features, but they want $22 for it.
Of course they do. I love that movie too. Their shot selects are usually like, a lot of those are like Hayden movies. I'm like, damn, I remember watching that growing up. And then it's always incredibly disappointing special features or just nothing.
Yeah. I feel like if you're going to charge me $20, even if I won't use them, I want them in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's like,
agree.
it's like I won't buy a brand new Scream Factory release unless I know I want the slipcover and I like the movie a lot. But if it doesn't have a slipcover, it's a collection edition. I look for that shit used, and I'll just buy it used.
You always have somebody going, yeah, but once in a blue moon, they'll put out an urban legend. And it's just like, no one was asking for that. No one was asking for.
Oh, I like Urban
Legend.
Legend. Although I'm going to say,
Urban Legend.
I've been saving up for the 88 films release of it.
But I mean, sure. But were you?
Oh, come
I'm
on,
saying,
man.
were you
don't need Bloody
asking-
Mary.
I've
I'm
never
saying
seen it, but I want to watch it.
So we cut off Hayden. What were you
No,
saying?
that's okay. I was just trying to say, no one was asking for the 6 hours of special features on Urban Legend, and it's like that's good enough to get them by for everything that they just kind of like
Oh, man.
throw out there.
That's a genuinely great release. Like that's why I will never fully hate them, because every
Well,
now
they
and
used
then
to put at least half of that effort into everything.
that's true. They don't care as much about their movies now, but
I can't
one
buy
of these days
slipcover.
we'll get a
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna. One of these days, we'll get another release with as much effort as Urban Legend. I think sometimes it speaks volumes that like they'll be able to interview someone for one release and then they can't interview them for the other, and it's like, were they just not available, or did they just not want to be interviewed by them again because they had a bad experience? Like they interviewed Shannon Elizabeth for 13 Ghosts, and then she is absent from the Cursed Blu-ray. And it makes me wonder if she wanted to be interviewed or if they even bothered to try and get an interview with her. Like, I want to know what's up with that.
I love the kerfluffle of they sent out a press release without proofreading it, saying that, oh yeah, you're going to see the version of Curse you've never seen before, and then 2 minutes later they're like, Oh wait, that was the original press release for the original unrated Blu-ray, and we just didn't change it. Sorry. We don't have the Craven cut. It doesn't exist. It's just like, oh, thanks for getting my hopes up.
But Mark, where can people find you so we can get these hot takes?
Find my hot takes on the old Twitter at the Shape 14, capital TS, Jesus Christ, capital THE _ capital SHAPE 14. You can find me on Letterboxd. That's where you'll find most of the hot takes. You'll rarely find a single negative review on there. Just look me up on there, Mark Wanner. Look me up on my name.
That letterbox is goated, I will say. There's so many conversations I have with Daniel where I'm like, did you see Mark Wanner's letterbox? So, Hayden, where can people find
honored.
you?
That's the reaction.
You can find me on Letterboxd as well at Hayden Comes Alive, and actually just updated my bio. I now am sharing the link publicly for my horror short stories that are collected in 10 different volumes of different anthologies. In case you're a horror fan, you want to check those out. So I've told myself I'm going to start plugging those more regularly to hopefully get me back into the habit of writing every day. So
hell yeah.
Nice.
Positive reinforcement for myself.
Right.
Well, I'll have to check those out as often as I check out Mark Wanner's letterbox. It's like Daniel and Mark Wanner are like my go-to letterbox reviewees. It's like, what did they think about this movie? So I could know how I feel about this movie I just saw.
This is the power I dreamed about having as a kid.
Right. Well, lads,
now it's going to drive him mad.
He's like, now he's going to be stressing out every recording. Well, what's Chris going to think if I put this down? Let me think about it again.
No, I'm going to be purposefully rating movies to get a specific reaction out of you.
Here we go. Breadcrumb reviews. But lads, thank you for coming on and being on Inside the Sequel. I had a lot of fun. I even learned a lot too, which is great. And I hope to have you two on again before Halloween Ends comes out, and I end myself too. But other than that, if you are rewatching those Pirates of the Caribbean movies, do you really care about cinema? Anyway, we'll see you next time.